Today I sat down with Kyle Mealy, who is the director over at Rocketclicks, an SEO and PPC agency. They have an incredible tagline, which Kyle shared with me, and they are the last agency that you'll ever work with, essentially indicating that if you aren't quite the size yet to build in-house, then they're going to be the agency to work with. He was formerly an implementer for EOS, and as a result, we talked a lot, probably about 15 minutes, about the whole ecosystem and what it means to run on EOS. So if you're interested in EOS or learning a little bit more about SEO and PPC and when and what you should do and how you can approach it, then this is absolutely the episode for you. I hope, as always, you get a lot of value out of it. Enjoy. Welcome to Successful Scales, the show where I talk to world-class professionals on what it takes to scale successful businesses. I dive deep asking questions to people who are running unicorn businesses, to raising funds, to buying businesses, mergers and acquisitions, IP and patent law, what is to manage performance management. I mean, the list goes on. The idea really is, how do I create knowledge and learning for you guys listening in? And of course, myself, getting the floor with people who I, in many cases, would never dream to share a room with. Before we jump into the episode, I've got to give a special thank you to our sponsors. Firstly, over at Global Wide Advisors, a leading digital consumer products investment bank focused on optimizing the sales process. An incredible team, always happy to pick up the phone and educate you or anyone about the sales process and what you should really consider, and can obviously help take you to market or even acquire businesses. I ring them for just about everything these days. Us over at Multiply Me, we are the end-to-end executive search and HR function into the Philippines, helping find better talent and onboarding them effectively. And last but not least, Escala, our management consultancy focused on process improvement, where we help build better systems for your business. That's all the ads you're going to get from me, ladies and gentlemen. The rest is all about learning. I hope you really enjoy and get as much out of these sessions as I do, sitting face to face with some of the world-renowned leaders in their respective fields, asking them the tough questions that they're not often asked. All right. I've been listening to Green Lights, and so I can't get Matthew McConaughey out of my head, guys. But unusual start. But Kyle, that all right is for you, my friend, because we got connected at the EOS conference in Orlando 66 days ago. And I know that because I've been meditating every day since, and it's got like a little counter of how many consecutive days. And that was one of the things after listening to Gino that I committed to myself in saying I'm going to do 365 days of it. It's the first time I've actually said that out loud, but I am going to do that. So anyway, a lot of nonsense that I've just started with here. Kyle, you can clearly see how many things are running in my head, but mate, I'm so happy to be sitting here with you. We've had a bunch of dialogue on the back of it, and mate, I just feel like you're my brother from another mother. So welcome to the show.
I am grateful to be here. I love the meditation thing. That is such a cool goal to be going after. Gino was wonderful to watch. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun conversations. It's just one of those things where it clicks. And when it clicks, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, we've been getting on calls for no other reason, just to literally shoot the shit and talk about all the topics we love. And, the last time we were chatting, I was like, listen, Kyle, you have such a wealth of knowledge and information, and you could help a lot of people. And it just made all the sense in the world to simply hit record on one of our conversations, because I know I'm learning. And if I'm learning, I'm sure that there's going to be a nugget or two that someone out there hasn't heard before. So before we get into it, which is very typical us, I would love just to pass it over to you, let you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and a little bit about where you're at today and what you're up to. And of course, there's going to be a bit of traction talk, guys. I know you hear it a lot, but it's coming, so be expected.
Thank you, Yanni. Yeah. So, Kyle Mealy, I am the Director of Marketing and Strategic Partnerships at Rocketclicks. The high-level notes, the business notes are, I get obsessive about growth. And that's people, that's business. and so I just love working with people who are excited about growth, and obviously I'm in the right seat now talking to Yanni, and I've had this really funny journey to get to Rocket Clicks, and my little track record in my head, and I hate even talking about it, but I know I need to talk about it, is I started a mom and pop business that was self-implementing EOS. I was in the integrator seat, and I wanted to scale that thing. We push, we push, we push, we push. We doubled it in 3 years, and that was a huge win. And I just get hungry for challenge. And so, through a mutual friend, I got to know Rocket Clicks, and they were ready for that next level of growth. And so I came in about a year and a half ago and push, 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 and we're on track to double in 3 years. And so it's been fun now at Rocket Clicks because not only are we growing as a business, but our output is growth as a business. So when you think about how many times I'm going to say growth today, you're going to realize that I'm in a really fun seat for myself. Um, and so I get to talk to people who want to grow, and then I give them, access to our team that is a growth engine online. And if you're not online, you're probably not found today. Um, and so then I get to, sit in this marketing seat too, where we get to really have fun because our client profile is so niche that I actually have to turn away more people than I say yes to, which I hated. And so we built a couple of really cool tools to give out to the world to help people market more effectively and that aren't expensive. They're free. They're just, it's an email gate, but that's it. And we played this game and this idea that we would be the last agency you work with. Not saying we're the first agency you work with, but the last agency. And a beautiful story for me is you come meet Rocket Clicks. We give you this information, a map to help you go to the next level in your marketing. You build out your marketing, you grow, and then suddenly you wake up and you realize, oh my gosh, I need the pros. You call Rocket Clicks, we kick some serious butt for you, and then you look at us and say, guys, I have to fire you because I'm going to bring in my SEO and my paid advertising in house, and we're taking this to the next level. And so that is the last agency you work with, and creating that message and then the resources to make that come to life. Oh boy, it's been a fun ride, and it's been a short ride, and I can't wait for version 2 that's dropping here. Anyone at EOS conference got the version, the first view of it that was really curated for businesses running on EOS, and I'm excited to share it and share what we're doing.
Wow, that's super cool. And I didn't know that you were an integrator before stepping in here. Let me just guess that you came in, maybe you were helping them integrate EOS into their business. They realized how talented you were, and before you know it, 18 months have passed, and you've on track to double the business in 3 years. Is that a fair guess?
It's pretty close. The word on the street, it's a funny little story, but the owner's business coach worked with me at the past business, and he knew I was this little growth engine that could. But I think I had a little self doubt because it had been in a mom and pop. It was not traditional implemented EOS. It was an unnamed integrator role, and I didn't think I had it yet. I didn't like maybe deep down believe that I could do it. And so this opportunity came along. It was a good place for me to like actually see if like my belief matched with the deep truth. And so luckily I was given tons of room to run, which is what I was needing. And I think I've done that work now. And so I have this really, proud moment of looking back and going, I took a bet on myself and it worked, and how grateful I am to Rocket Clicks for taking the bet on me. And so I know that was some of our big conversation early on. But I would say I came in mostly as like a growth guy because, the big thing I had been able to say is, we doubled in 3 years. And so I think Tyler, the visionary here at Rocket Clicks, really was like, I want that. What is that? Go do that. And so that's what I've done.
That's fantastic. And I said we will get into traction and all of that because it's impossible for two of us not to. But just because we've talked about integrator, we've talked about implementers, and we've talked about visionary, maybe you're going to be a better person than me. Typically, that's not the case here, but you will, in this case, definitely be a better person than me to talk about it. So just for everyone listening, and I know I talk about it a lot, but if this is the only episode that you've tuned into, do you want to just talk a little bit about what traction is and what being an integrator actually means?
Yeah, that's a really, really valuable point. EOS worldwide would be, the source of truth, but the genesis of, Traction is the book Traction by Gino Wickman, and God, there was a co-author, and his name is escaping me, but the book is Traction. It's an incredible way to help businesses implement an operating system inside of their business. And as this work has gotten out into the world and in the wild, there's been this realization that there are generally two roles that you will see inside of a business. One is the visionary. It's the one who's excitable, lots of big ideas. I can tell a very funny story about a visionary integrator. Now, integrator is generally like a COO. They keep the trains running on time. And this will give you a good understanding of that dynamic. You've got the visionary is usually the CEO, and the second in command is usually the integrator. A visionary came to an integrator. This is a true story of a business running on EOS that I'm really close with. It's a funny story. They share it all the time. But the visionary said, you know what? I know how good we are. I know that we have the best product on the market. It was a retention-based service. And they're like, you know what? Because we know we're going to kick so much butt, let's not charge for a whole year. And then we'll charge them after a year because we know that they'll be with us for that year. And the integrator's like, yeah, we can't really do that though. We kind of need to make money to get to that year. And so when you think about that dynamic, you probably have that in your business, even if it's unnamed. And so I think that dynamic shows up, and I see so many businesses not running on EOS who have some version of that dynamic. And then obviously in EOS world, there is that named dynamic. Implementer is a word that often gets confused because it's got too many I's next to each other. It's the outside entity that EOS provides to businesses as an agent to support growth and implement the operating system that is EOS. So they work very closely with a visionary integrator or an executive leadership team to put a business through the paces of deploying all the strategies that are outlined in the Traction book. I think that was a pretty good summary for you, Yanni.
You've done a very, very good job of that, and I definitely resonates with me and with us very deeply. I mean, I'm our company's visionary. Lippy, my co-founder, is the integrator. I have 100 ideas a day. Half of one is maybe okay. Lippy tells me that 100 of them are terrible, and maybe sometimes will give me a little bit of credit for one. He also has some visionary tendencies, so sometimes the two of us need to be a little bit careful, and we sort of rock back and forth. But I think what's more, and I always make that mistake, integrator and implementer. Implementers are the people that are actually coming in and helping you implement, implement where you have the visionary integrator, and then, well, is it visionary implement? Isn't it implementers who are also?
Well, there's pure EOS, right, where you run it exactly as it is defined, and that would be visionary at the top with integrator sitting right below, and then the leadership layer reporting to the integrator, because I think in pure EOS, the assumption is that visionaries are not very good leaders from like a making sure things get done and accountability perspective. So by putting the integrator as the kind of the gatekeeper, it solves a lot of those problems, and the integrator focuses on LMA and the visionary focuses on the big stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, inside of Traction, to give you guys a little bit more of an insight into the things that really revolutionized our business is, we built our 1-year goal. We built our rocks, which are our 90-day rolling objectives to achieve that goal. And inside of that, we have our scorecards to make sure that we're delivering on those rocks to hitting that 1-year goal. And I'd honestly say, there's other aspects. You've got the people analyzer, making sure you have the right people inside of your business, and you build your core values that help you understand if the people are in the right seats inside of the business. And there's GWC, gets it once. I can keep going on and on. But the thing that really changed our business, honestly, and you need to sort of build all of the parts, is what's called the L10 meeting, which is a level 10 meeting where every week you meet with all of your senior leadership. And the bulk of the meeting, you go through updates and you go through some critical things, but the bulk of the meeting is focused on IDS, identify, discuss, solve. And that's where you can really air out all of your dirty laundry, creating really healthy conflict internally and making sure that if things are not running the way they are, all the people that need to know about it. And you can put the, essentially the most seasoned heads in a room together and solve for whatever X is on any given week. So again, I am, I don't know if I'm the poster boy for EOS just yet, but I definitely am the person who is spruiking it from the mountaintops, and huge believer. And there's no way that we as a business would be where we are today if it wasn't for Gino Wickman and for Traction. So, from one EOSer to another, and anyone listening out there, I mean, just get on it, guys. If you haven't read the book, read it. If you've read the book and you haven't gone ahead and implemented. If you haven't implemented, get an implementer to help you implement, and it will really, thank me later, essentially. So now that we've covered all of that, and now that people are in tune with what some of the tangents that I guarantee the rest of this session will go on, let's talk more about marketing, and more specifically about Rocket and how you guys approach it. Because the thing that drew me in when we met the first time was really, I walked past your booth, and there's this huge printout of this mapped out journey of all of the things that need to happen. And I distinctly remember asking and saying, like, do you mind if I take a photo of this? And it was like, sure, go for it. Because it was just brilliant. I think for a lot of people, the notion of online marketing is this scary thing. And like you very clearly pointed out at the start, if you're not online, you're not going to be found. And so you map out the journey of how to even approach it, because there are so many things. So, I want to stop talking. I really want to hand it over to you, because you're the guy with all the insights and information that's going to help. But let's just put ourselves in the position of someone in the audience right now. They're a somewhat established business. They are getting some level of traction, whether it's e-commerce or not, and traction in the sense of growth, not in the sense of traction that we're talking about here. Now that is I've become a dad recently, so give me the grace of the dad jokes here. But what does it look like? Let's say I'm walking into you for the first time. I've never done any online marketing before, but I've got tons of word of mouth. My brand is growing. Like, how do you even approach the situation?
Yanni, I'm going to do my best to string all these great thoughts together for your audience, and hopefully give you guys an incredible dad joke along the way. I love it. I'm going to connect us to EOS and what this podcast is. We're talking about successful scales, right? We're growing businesses, and frankly, businesses that run on EOS tend to grow faster. And we have empirical evidence of that. We love working with businesses on EOS because instantly there's a shared language of what matters. It's very clear to understand where they're going. There's measurables, there's accountability. And so we actually can see different businesses performing better because of that. The second part of it, and again, based on our work with the EOS, is we realize that we're at the tail end of marketing. Like, Rocket Clicks is like before you go in-house. Kohl's corporate, obviously, Kohl's is going through some negative stuff right now, but it's actually in Little Menominee Falls, which is where Rocket Clicks is headquarters. And so they have an SEO department of like 20 people. Now, quite a few of them are old Rocket Clicks alumni, which is kind of funny. My point on that, though, is if you're not at the point where you can bring in that level of expertise in-house, but you're past startup, there's a lot of ways to grow. And we sit right on the tail end, right before somebody goes fully in-house. They're at enterprise level, and we help them get to that point where we get fired for being great, which is I love that. Like, secretly, I think that is a wicked cool thing. But we get to sit on some incredible marketing teams. And, one of our three uniques at Rocket Clicks is that we sit at the same side of the table as you. And so we sit as a voice of, digital advertising or SEO, and I'm going to kind of lump those, as a solution instead of just one service or the other, because, again, the people we're working with generally need both, and they needed heavy doses. And we kept finding these commonalities between these incredible marketing groups. They had consistency, they had, deliverables, they had confidence that the channels were working, they had, they were thinking about the whole funnel. And so it was so obvious that there were these 6 core elements, and anybody who wasn't using those were struggling. And it was always back to one of the 6. And we know enough really smart marketers because Rocket Clicks is so hyper-focused. We only do SEO. We only do paid advertising. If you need branding or website, we have to send you to another expert. And we're not dealing with people who this isn't a churn and burn. Our clients are with us 27 months on average. And so we had these great knowledge leaders in our space. we found these 6 core concepts that seemed to be true. We went and vetted it with some other experts. We even connected with EOS implementers to see if these were the problems that their clients were running into, and the answer kept being, this is it. And so we just built, I think there's 28 or 29 free tools that live underneath these 6 core elements to help anyone get out in front of like the biggest problems facing their marketing. And our thought was, if you use these tools, you take that knowledge, you apply it in your business, you're gonna build the stability to work towards where I think most people want to go. They're listening to this because they want to be at the problem of having an SEO department, not just a marketing department. They want to have, rapid growth. And so we wanted to help shortcut that, because there's nothing out there for marketing on like what you always will find is a solution. What you won't always find is a plan. And if you want a plan, it's very expensive and it comes at like a CMO level. And most of the people on your business and your podcast probably can't afford a $150,000 to $200,000 executive today. And if they did, they would be making that executive spend just as much time in the execution, which is doomed to start.
Amen.
That's it.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I hear you loud and clear. And so, for the audience, right? You guys, I think that, there's a few things to learn from this. One is that, another EOS term, your 3 uniques. That's EOS, right?
Yeah, it's EOS. Well, if we really unpack EOS, it goes a little deeper. But yes, we'll use 3 uniques
for sure.
EOS.
Well, I get confused with all of the different methodologies that I read, and there's also there's the carry-on books as well. Like, I'm just going through the EOS Life right now, and there's tremendous value. You guys are very focused, right? You said, I'm not going to touch branding and creative. That's not us. And I think that there's a lesson to learn right there, in that staying in your lane and being the best at it is really critical. And you guys have made a very calculated decision. Again, me coming from a creative advertising and digital marketing background, it's very clear to me, but SEO and PPC, I think a lot of people actually get them confused. Or, I had a buddy of mine, legitimately a buddy of mine the other day, Josh Blau, shout out to you. Anyone who's looking for a great dog trainer on the east coast of Australia, hit him up. But we were having a conversation, right? And he was like, look, I'm going to do SEO for my website. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I said, look, mate, SEO is a long-term play. What are you trying to achieve? He's like, I just want to get leads in the door. And I said, just set up a Google business. You're a local business. And I kid you not, 2 weeks later, he's getting more leads than he can handle. And he's like, dude, I didn't even have to pay a cent for it. So I think what's really helpful to establish right now is, what is the definition of SEO versus SEM or PPC, and who needs it? Who's it even relevant to?
Oh yeah, good question, big question. I'll try and tackle it. Yes, there's so many interchangeable names. One signal that I know that I'm talking to someone who would need the utility device we built, which is called the marketing navigational chart, is if they say, I want the SEOs. If you add the S at the end, I know that you need what I'm telling you right now. SEO stands for search engine optimization. SEM is search engine marketing. PPC is pay-per-click, and then I'm referring to it more often as paid advertising, because we're not always necessarily requiring a click. Yes, those clicks always come at a cost, but we're not necessarily requiring a click to be effective. Just interrupting somebody's scroll is paid advertising, but we don't have to click, it's visibility. When we're thinking about marketing as a whole, if you are a product that is online, that people want to purchase, specifically, my gosh, e-commerce, there's a case to be made for both. And I'm going to go into each one uniquely so you have a clear definition for SEO and a clear definition for paid advertising, and then understand that there is a bridge between them. So when we talk about search engine optimization, what we're talking about is when you go to Google and you type in what you're looking for, there's local SEO, which is Google My Business Profile. So I'll use a really, it's maybe not e-commerce-y, but it's very relevant to, what we as humans do every day. We're in a new area and we search for restaurants near me. What you're going to see is the map pack. That's your local SEO. You're going to see probably some ads, which is not SEO because it's advertising. It's not search engine optimized. But then underneath the map pack, you'll see more SEO results. If it has sponsored, boosted, the letters AD, it's paid advertising. So when you think about, again, go look this up, you'll see these little distinctions. But the key to start to split these up is understanding that all of those are battlefields. They are absolutely a battlefield. Google has one, and I'm deferring to Google most often. Let's be honest, they're the elephant in the room. They have 85% of the market share. They're working to catch up with things like DuckDuckGo, who's talking about the privacy. And I think Google is going to be here for a while, a very long while. So I'm going to just default to them. They make the most money when we Google it. Like when we know that if we Google something, we're getting an answer right away. And so as a marketer in digital marketing with a product to sell, we've got to connect that query, that search, to a result that answers their question. And if we can do that thoughtfully and not in the language we care about, but in the language that Google cares about, we will see more traffic, more results every time. And so both are happening simultaneously. SEO and paid advertising is happening simultaneously. So you can't ignore one impacts the other. And you can't I'm going to just kind of shut off some of my favorite, well, don't do this because of that. No. Yes, you might scroll past ads. I know you do. But then you're going to SEO. And I guarantee you for high search volume, lots of people looking for it, somebody's paying to do SEO to get at the top of the list. So it's just a different way of paying for advertising and placing. When we talk about SEO, in the Rocket Clicks definition, it's broader than probably we define it, but just this will give you some sort of baseline. I will give it to you as an unbiased truth that you can depend on. It means we take care of the website in a way that makes it more understandable by Google. And we think of it in three buckets. We think of it as technical, which is the ones and zeros. I don't actually understand it. It's the meta tags, it's the schemas, it's all those little things that Google cares about, not you or I. There's content, not keywords anymore. Like most of the marketers that I talk to, even high-powered marketing leaders, are about 3 to 4 years behind on what is currently true in the environment. It's no longer keyword. It's no longer even just words on a page. Google's really starting to, the AI continues to improve. Think about how many opportunities they get to build data every day, answer questions with thoughtful understanding of the context of the question and reading your site as maybe you or I might, and then try and connect the answers. So it has to be thoughtful. It has to be well done. And then, this is, I think, where Rocket Clicks really goes to a different level is conversion, right? There are ways that the human mind interacts with a website because we've done it so many times. And, there's a law of SEO or a theory that most people spend time on someone else's website, so it better look like theirs. So you kind of have to play the game of what people want. Most of us expect like a home page to be in the upper left corner. Most of us expect a contact page to be on the upper right. And so as pretty as you want your website to look, you've got to understand it's about your user. And so we create a conversion path for them. And so if you're doing technical, you're telling Google the right things. You're giving Google the answer that it wants to give that is thoughtful and intentional so that people keep coming back to Google for their answers. And then you give them a way to solve it. Well, then you've done SEO and you've done it profitably. Paid advertising just kind of short circuits all that. We're going to go up to the front. We're going to pay more money. We can get up there very quickly. But when you get to the page, it's still kind of SEO. You still have to have good content. You still have to have a buyer journey in your head. You still have to have a way to contact. You're just paying to get up front quicker. Arguably, one would say, the internet is not that different from, the old storefront where real estate, or location. If you have a great paid ad and they scroll past it, but your organic ranking is high, they've now seen your brand twice, and that improves your likelihood of success. And at the end of the day, if you're showing up for the right user intent and the right person is looking at it at the right step of the journey, you curate the back end. So that's like,
I think, Kyle, you've earned a drink of water, and also you have definitely helped demystify what I would say for a lot of people is a confusing thing. Like I was calling out about one of my mates who I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, had no idea between the difference and was about to invest heavily in something that honestly just wouldn't have added at least the value in the time that it needed to add the value, because like you very eloquently put out, one of them is more immediate in PPC and one of them is more of a long-term commitment and play in SEO. And it's not that one is more important than the other; they're both equally as important. And you could argue, well, PPC, you're going to see a direct ROI. You can clearly see I spent X, I made Y, and therefore. Whereas SEO is a little bit more mysterious, so to speak, in that sense, but it is a longer-term play and something that, if done correctly and with the right amount of patience, so anyone who's looking to work with Rocket Clicks, don't expect them to start doing some SEO work and 2 weeks later it being found on Google. That's not how it works.
Well, and Google's fighting spam. Like at the end of the day, Google doesn't want to give free rankings or easy rankings to the top, because then like every spammer on earth, like you've gotten the Dear Sir or Madam email, would push it to the top and it would ruin Google's business model. Like lean into what Google needs. It needs profitable solutions. So the smartest decision is to actually slow down the efficacy of moving up those rankings, because only really high quality people and businesses will continue to invest so that they can move up those rankings. And so it's actually really smart on Google's end. And we just did a webinar to help people understand, do I do SEO? Do I do paid advertising? Or how do I invest in it and make sure I get a return on my investment? So, Yanni, I can give that to anyone of your audience however you want it, but it gives people a framework to know which one to invest in and why, or maybe there's a case to be made for both. So I think that would be valuable.
Let's definitely send it over. We'll add it in the show notes. Also links to all of your free tools. I'm sure that's going to help a lot of people. But for those that are going to listen into us for the next sort of 15 or so minutes here, I'd love to delve a little deeper into, effectively, for any business who's looking to go on this journey, maybe has already started it. I mean, I think you've highlighted some really valuable things, particularly about SEO, where you talk about sort of the schema tags and all the technical stuff that you or I do not know and should not know in any great level of granularity and detail about. That would be a waste of our...
I'm really glad there are people who love that. I'm just not one of them.
I love that for them. But the other two components, I think, are things that people can start to think about. And I'm sure that if they were to come to a Rocket Clicks or an agency or start to build an in-house team, or whatever their journey looks like, there's things that they can do to really get themselves ready. And so you talked about content production, and I forget the third component of it, but let's look at the Rocket Clicks experience and the journey. So they're coming in, they've never really done any of this before. I mean, how do you even approach, like, what content should I be producing, and how do I do this?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is pretty quickly separate into two buckets. If you have those questions, like how do I best deploy paid advertising, or which is better for me today, there's a case to be made that you're not quite ready for Rocket Clicks yet. And I say this like it was a very awkward moment at EOS conference, and I thought it was actually funny, but it was awkward too. We talked about this marketing navigational chart, and I talked about some of the experts that had contributed to it, and hey, if you need this solution, like go there. And one gentleman stood up and he asked a question. He goes, so can I just buy the whole package with all the little experts in it and just do all the things? And I'm like, no, because that's actually not what we do. But the thought was, hey, let's get you the core foundation, and then it'll be very apparent when it's time to deploy a Rocket Clicks. We want to be the last agency, maybe not the first one. And that was the decision we made is, well, we're going to play the long game here. We're going to play the actual 3-5 year game. And so one of the things that V2 of the marketing navigational chart will have is an assessment on the front. And this is going to be one of our coolest tools, because there are questions that you're asking. And what I've learned is different marketers have these different wells of knowledge, but marketing is so wide that if you have a gap in digital, how do I even go about solving it? And how do I pick a good partner when I'm a brand marketer? And so we're going to do this assessment, and then it's going to narrow you into the 6 core buckets. And for anyone who's trying to decide where to go next in marketing, the answer I would give them first is understanding the role. Who owns strategy and execution in your marketing today? Because if it's you, the visionary, like that's fine, like good for you. But just understand that you're going to be limited in the deployment of it, which means you're going to need a higher caliber of expertise who can take smaller amounts of knowledge and accurately deploy them online and with little handholding. And so there's a case to be made of, hey, if you want to grow, you may need to invest in a real marketing leader. And so I talked to a number of folks who are investing in a marketing leader. Well, one of the tools that we offer inside of this marketing navigational chart is an assessment of the skills that you have today and also the kind of leadership capability that you have. And so we think about three different types of leader, and you're going to kind of see visionary and integrator show up too, but there's a strategic leader, somebody who points the way. Like I told our team, the marketing navigational chart is the way. There's an operational leader who's like, okay, well, what is it, Kyle? Is it 6 pages? Is it 12 pages? Somebody has to know what we're doing with that idea. And then you have the execution leader, and we have that on our team who builds the web pages, who knows where all the hidden buttons and numbers are. And so we've deployed that ourselves, and we had this huge upwell of growth, and we asked different questions. And so the navigational chart has different nodes depending on where you are. I just talked to someone who has a in-place marketing leader. They've been around, they're director, executive level, and the real question they have is, okay, we've always done referrals, like we've capped out on referrals. How do we expand next? Like, what is the next thing for us? And that's where challenging assumptions would be, and that's we call a landmark in the marketing navigational chart. And it's all kinds of questions like, okay, well, is digital a solution for you, or have you not even considered, brand or a podcast? And so, and asking those big questions. And again, if you've already asked those questions, it's going to be very obvious where we fit into the Rocket Clicks piece.
For sure. So yeah, that's super helpful, and that's definitely helping guide some of the direction of what's needed. So what you're, to distill down or to parrot back what I'm understanding, it's essentially when you're even looking to get into SEO, content production, or anything technical, or even paid media, you really have to have clarity on what is the message that you're actually looking to send out into the world, and does your audience really live there? I'm sure, Rocket Clicks could definitely help.
That's a huge part of that.
But
Yep. Yeah, you have to have an owner. Somebody has to say, this is the message we want to give. And again, oftentimes the visionaries are not the best person for it. And so if not them, then who? And that's where they start. One of the nodes is channel confidence. And the question is this channel viable? Like, is SEO viable? I had to turn away someone the other day who, it was like the niches of niche I've ever heard. And the problem is there's only 10 people in the entire US searching for that solution a month. We're not going to influence that. Like, that is a waste of time. Like, stop. Like, this is person to person. You need to go on LinkedIn and target all those titles and go send them an email today. Like, don't even call me anymore. But that's channel confidence. That's knowing that you think it's SEO because you've seen other people have success with SEO, but if you called an SEO agency, they would usually give you we can make that work. And I think we've chosen to be the opposite of that. And I hated just saying, sorry, bye. Well, you should be able to figure out that there's a better, like that you should have this LinkedIn approach, because it's quite obvious when you think about it. There's only, 2,000 people with that title, and you need 3 or 4 of them a year. Like, go target them today. There's tools.
Yeah, it's amazing to think. And again, I think in ways where spoiled or privileged growing up in an age where this is, we're digital natives, so to speak, where we've sort of lived and breathed it. And, I look at a lot of the tactics and strategies that I implement from a digital perspective, and, I'm like, but that's the most obvious thing ever to me. I think it is, like you pointed out, marketing, particularly online marketing, is so broad. And one of the things that's happened, particularly in, the Amazon niche specifically, is everyone started talking about what they define as offsite traffic, which in my books is SEO, PPC, and paid media, influencer marketing, starting to build.
You're still paying at some level, but it's
for sure. Yeah. But the funny thing to me is that they're talking about this offsite traffic, where this was just brand building or driving traffic to your website, to your business. And so it just goes to show that while you grow up in this digital age, a lot of people are still just stumbling upon, all of the different ways that you can approach it today. And so for them and for getting your messaging right and to being in a position where, you can leverage an agency of any sort. And I think this is probably a nice topic to sort of round this out on is, a lot of people are trying to make the decision, do I build in-house? Do I go to an agency?
Yep.
You're talking, and I even wrote down your line, the last agency you'll ever work with. And I think that is such a beautiful brand positioning message and so clear, especially to someone like me, but so clear to who you guys are that it's very hard to miss. You're not the person that you start with because they have to have seen some success or had their failures. And, we're not going to pay you, $300 a month and call you every second something, we didn't get the conversion that we
I just hit refresh. I'm not higher up on my ranking.
Exactly,
what are you doing?
Exactly. I wish that upon no one. But in preparation for working with not just Rocket Clicks, I'd say, let's look out for any agency owner out there in the world here. What are some of the things? How can you work better with an agency? What would be the recommendations you would give to any potential client of yours or any agency at any level? How can you get the best result out of that working relationship?
I'm going to give you some really powerful, simple ways to think approach. Now, I never give clear answers. It is, sometimes a fault, but what I'm going to give you is a framework to think about, and then you have to apply it, right? That's my game. Number one is manage revenue per analyst. This is going to be a really powerful tool for you to have in your toolbox. Inside of an agency, and this is true for us, ours is a little sideways of this, but it's all the same across. The magic number for a human who is doing digital marketing is about $20,000 to $25,000 in managed revenue per month that they are directly responsible for. That maybe there's a team, but at the end of the day, divide it all out. This is it. Well, if you know how many clients they have, you can figure out how many hours you're getting a day. If you have, I'll try and keep the math relatively simple here, right? I think it's 25,000. If they're working with 50 clients, well, that means each client is paying them $500 a month. And if they have 50 clients, they're working on your business less than 1 hour a week. So if you're paying $500 a month and you only need, you literally only need 2 or 3 hours of SEO work a month or paid advertising work a month, then you're probably right where you're supposed to be. But if you're getting frustrated that you're not getting the results, ask this question. How many team members or how many analysts and how many clients? And that's going to give you so much power to understand how much focus you're getting. And if you know how much focus you're getting, you can then more effectively measure the results and give them the leeway or the freedom they need to run, right? And that's what we come back to is knowing our numbers. If a client knows their numbers, they're more likely to be successful. One of a funny story that I love that we have. There's a big e-commerce client. They're in the office furniture space. They have a very clear number. It's 15% advertising expense. So if revenue is $100,000 in a month, our advertising expense cannot be more than $15,000. They know that it's profitable at that point for them. Like they know that they've already done the back end work and away we go. It's like send it. If we can get to 200,000 in revenue on 30,000 in ad spend, great. Carry on, gentlemen. Go. We had one that did golf clubs and it was $99 was the magic number. Team, get me as many as you can at 99, and they scaled all the way up to $1 million a month in spend. And when you think about the power of knowing numbers, you have the infinite ability to say, go spend. You know what growth costs. And so if you can't answer that today, you don't know what growth costs, then you are not ready for a full-on Rocket Clicks, and that's where your work would start. You have to know those things, and you really have to know them. And then you have to be able to consider it at scale too, right? Because you start to get economies of scale, but you also have to deal with logistics and operations. And so that's something we do run into on occasion. We oversold a couple of clients in the last month, and so they had to shut down, which you hate to do as a business owner, but like what a good problem to have. But it's because they knew their numbers and we had free reign.
That's a great bit of advice, is understanding when you're looking to vet who's the agency to work with, how much attention are you getting? And you weren't even going to go into this, Kyle, but I actually now distinctly remember the conversation we had several months ago. and by several I mean literally 2 months ago. Um, yeah,
66
yeah,
days.
yeah. Where your ratio is 2 to 1, as in, sorry, 1 to 2, right? Where you'll have, yeah,
Yep.
you'll like,
We have 45 team members with about 82 clients right now.
which is
So
it's an
I mean,
like, it's
it's obscene.
obscene. Like,
It's
it's
unheard of.
egregious.
It's
Um,
it's almost too hard to work sometimes because it's tight. It's honest. It's
which
tight.
just shows though the commitment that you have to your clients and the ones that you're taking on, and that's why the last agency you'll ever work with makes sense, because it has to make sense for them, it has to make sense for you, and you're not going to harm your gearing ratios. And I'd say that the first mistake that the majority of agencies make when you're really upset with their output and their performance is they're simply stretched too thin. It is very, very hard to scale any service business. I'm scaling multiple at the same time, and I'll tell you, it is a very challenging thing, particularly agencies, because the problem you'll find is that you're a growth agency. These are all growth agencies. They literally bring you in more money, and that's what they're supposed to do, the closest thing to the money. And so it's very hard for them to say no, 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 because they're seeing results with these clients, and the clients are saying, let's push harder, which means more hours. And so
Hmm.
it's a very fine line. So I'd say, congratulations on your ability to commit to what you can deliver and to maintain those ratios. I think it's a challenging thing to do as as someone running operationally an agency.
You run service business. You know that and it's easy to overextend. Like it's very easy. It happens very quickly too.
Absolutely. Listen, I think that's a great piece of advice. And, I'm looking at the time here, and I just can't believe how quickly the time has flown, my friend, which seems to be
That's
yeah,
normal.
the situation we find ourselves in every time we jump on a call. So, Kyle, before I let you go, I would very much love if, I put it all in the show notes, and we've talked a bit about it, but what's the best way, if someone was listening and was interested in working with Rocket Clicks, what's the best way to find out more and get in touch?
Uh, Start with a conversation. Like at the end of the day, part of being the last agency you work with means that if we're not the right fit today, like I have things to share with you and show you to help you move down the road. And in my own brain, I'm thinking you're still going to work with us. It's just 3 to 4 years from now, and you've got plenty of things to do to get there. But if you hit the website rocketclicks.com with an rocket clicks with an S, you hit the schedule a consultation or talk or let's talk, it comes right to me. You'll end up dealing with me, and then I'm happy to point you in all the different directions. Yanni, I'll make sure you have access to the marketing navigational chart. I may, depending on when this comes out, we'll time it really well because V2 is about to arrive. And then even if I can't give it to you today, I will give you whatever I can to help you grow. At the end of the day, like I'm obsessed about growth, and if I can't grow you or Rocket Clicks can't grow you, I probably know someone who you need to talk to, and I'd be happy to make those introductions.
Kyle, one of the true great guys in the space. Thank you so much. And just
Thanks,
appreciate your
Yanni.
time, my friend.
I appreciate the time. I always enjoy chatting with you. We always end up covering something interesting, or I learn just as much from you every time we hop on. So hopefully your audience gets something of
I'd be
value here.
shocked if they didn't, mate. Thank you so, so much.